Ati hei Māori ora, tēnei mihi e tuku ana ki a koutou katoa, ngā karangatanga maha, no tēnā, ko tēnei mihi, miharo, ki a koutou, nau mai, whakatau mai rā. To one and all, this is a very warm greeting to you all, from near and far. Welcome, twice, thrice, to this place. Tēnā koutou. Koia I hua ai tēnei wari, hei wari kai kainga. This is to inform everyone of the name of this house. It is named Whakatuputupu. This is in order that people understand the implication of this name, of this house. The old people have passed, including those who conducted the long-standing rituals of this village. They have passed as have their significant reasoning, their work and more. My older brothers and sisters have passed, and my mother and father too. I am the only one left. My father did not pass on all that was needed before his death. This is the reason why I named this house a house of reprisal for my father, accordingly named Whakatuputupu in this era, in this year, to hold fast to the past in my purpose for naming this house.
Some of the promises that were made, which also are underpinned by the notion of Whakatuputupu, were schools, hospitals, access, and so this hospital especially is important because none of that has happened. We don't have access to good health, we don't have access to equitable health outcomes, we haven't had good schooling, access and outcomes, and they were promised to us. So as a direct descendant of HK, I take the idea of Whakatuputupu as an intergenerational movement, and it's each subsequent generation fights the fight for those promises.
The strands of Waitaha, Māmoe and Kaitahu run through us all, so we call ourselves, when we refer to all of those previous people, Kaitahu Whānui. Mana whenua brings with it connection, our world view of how we connect with our lands, rivers, maunga, seas, our environment, the way we utilised it, the traditions, the stories, the place names, the whakapapa. As being mana whenua, we have certain duties, responsibilities to uphold those traditions, those tikanga, in the way we interact with our environment and with visitors. There was the signing of the treaty here in 1840, which opened the door for settlement and legitimate settlement by tauiwi. Then a significant event occurred in 1844, the sale of Otako block, which the Dunedin city area was part of the sale, and that opened up the door for settlement. And our involvement from that point on, about 1862, was problematical and was much more reduced, and that area, that foreshore area, was expanded and developed and reclaimed. Wharfage was installed.
The compact between Pākehā Māori vis-a-vis the Treaty of Waitaki, but also recognises that it is mirrored in the history of the land and of the people associated with that land. And that's on that specific site of where the Dunedin Hospital sits, or will sit. What we see today is quite completely different to what it looked like prior to the Scottish settlement becoming established, and the large-scale reclamations which they enacted very soon after into the 1870s. Reclamations took place in that inner harbour, essentially changing it forever.
Well, it sits on an area with a number of key place names that are it's on the foreshore actually, which was a sort of a reclaimed area, which was the old Oti-Puti, Ngāmoana Erua, some sort of key place names that come in through there. And there's a bit of mamae there because that area, well, particularly in the Princess Street area, was a reserve, and that was built on without our consent, and so it's a pretty significant place, and it also sits basically on Otako, which is the harbour. So for us in my hapu, it's hugely significant.
They are a very resilient people, our people, and they could see the benefits that could accrue to them, and they saw the benefit of promises of schools and hospitals made to them during the negotiations for the land sales. Those promises made were hollow promises, and that gave rise to Te Kirema, the Ngaito claim. As early as the ink was barely set on those documents when they could see things were not happening as they were promised.
Taiaroa Karatai were most concerned about what had transpired, and the promised benefits failed to eventuate. So they instilled in their children to pursue those issues, to not let those issues die, because Taiaroa Karatai, they died without those issues being resolved. And so their sons, their children, that generation, the next generation, continued the issues forward.
For us as mana whenua, that whakapapa is evident through the history of the site, through our history with the Ngaitahu claim and the sales of the Otago land block and the Kemp's purchase, and the coming to fruition of some of those promises that were made by the Crown back in 1844 and 1848.
I think it's important that mana whenua are welcoming people who are working on the site, as it is a part of our takiwa, a place of great respect for us, and it should be the same for them, and they should feel that same welcome as well.
From the outset, we were involved in the design, and the narrative which I helped write was part of instilling the history, our Māori values and our whakapapa into the hospital. So that was just the beginning, and now it's turned into mana whenua involved in health at various levels, mana whenua that can support in the workplace within the hospital. So. And then there's workers, so we're actually still really involved at each level, and I know it's going to take a while for it to complete. So I've only been a part of the start process really, and I'm sure that we'll be involved at every junction really.
I think that anyone that is working on the site should be understanding of what is the past and the future of this place as well. There is going to be an amazing hospital there which will help so many people, but will also be a place of loss for many, and I think that just respect and integrity when people are working on the site would be very helpful.
One of the most innovative things is that typically the design team would come, ask for a cultural narrative, take it away, do their best to interpret it, and then we would have walked away. We've been involved in every single aspect of this hospital, so it is essentially probably a world first co-Indigenous designed hospital.
So if one of the values that we were to do while working on this hospital is to lift each other's mana up, then what a great environment for building this hospital would be. So while you're working on this hospital and this project, note that everybody on this site is somebody's mum, somebody's dad, somebody's child, and that our job is to lift up their mana, to manaaki, to manaaki them.
All people that reside or work within Dunedin come under the mana of mana whenua, and it's our duty to extend manaakitaka to them and to make sure that they are looked after while they are residing in our whenua. To work towards our aspirations and reinvigorate and reclaim our cultural identity is probably the most prominent thing about what defines us as an iwi.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou, nau mai tauti mai.
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 Nā mihi ki araha ki te Raki Māoria ki te kaimahi. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.